What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of Who You Got, the absolute best fight pick show in all of MMA. I am one of your pair of your co-hosting duo. I am Serg Vicente, and I am joined by none other than legend.
Hey there, guys. Kat Zingano here.
What is going on, guys? I'm happy to be back, Kat. We have so much to talk about, and before we go ahead and jump into it, let me tell the people really quick what's on today's menu because unfortunately for us, we do have to talk about UFC 274 and how you and I both did. It wasn't our best picks, but you know what? We got some. So we're gonna talk about that. But really quick on today's menu, we are not only going to talk about obviously recapping UFC 274, but we're also going to go ahead and break down UFC Vegas 55, Holly Holm versus Caitlin Vieira, and we'll have a special guest today, as well as this week in social media, and of course, our Who You Got picks. Kat, how you doing? How's your weekend going? And how you been?
Well, I mean, it's fight camp, so that's about as crazy as it gets. I have, my knuckles are bruised up. My weightlifting marks are there. I got, skinned knees, skinned elbows. I'm so basically right on track.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah, it's been good. I had a rough couple last week. My grandma passed away, and that definitely was worth missing the first week of training camp, but gave me some motivation to come into this second one and work hard and feel motivated and try to balance the two so I can get through everything healthy. And here I am.
Love it. Well, our condolences, obviously. Like I said, hope you're doing well. But I tell you, we're all looking forward to this next camp for you. Like I said, now the fact that I'm seeing you already dinged up and ready, I'm worried for whoever she is. She's not ready. But let's talk about this a little bit before we even get into anything. Let's talk about this. UFC 274 just happened, and that was, like I said, our first show. We went out there, we did our picks. So I just want to recap it a little bit before we get into this next card. So we know what happened. The champ retained. There was change in championships and so many other things. For you, what were some of the things that stood out in UFC 274?
Well, I really hope with this show that, either there comes to be a system of how to pick your fights off of what we say. Mine, if we're going to go off of last week, I feel like my name should be Jinxie the Cat because everyone I picked lost. And except for OSP, which I'm happy about, but not a lot of people are happy about how that fight went. But, all of my picks did not win. I used to be superstitious with fighters, and I used to never tell anyone good luck because I was always afraid that my good luck was the jinx because it would always turn into them not winning. So whether your method with me is to, bet on what I say or to make sure you bet against me, there might be a theme there. But yeah, that was a rough card for some people. Rose. She fought a fight that, kept her physically safe. And, I think there was some controversy as far as how she was being communicated with from her coaches.
Yeah.
One thing that she said at the end that really, stuck with me is, she felt slightly offended that, people they don't like the fight unless her face got broken, and, she's like, I came out of the fight safe. I don't have a smashed nose. I don't have a destroyed orbital and all of a sudden now I'm boring, and it's like those are hard things to hear because yes, she lost and the fight it wasn't super eventful, but she did protect herself and she did stay safe. Is safe what people want to hear in fights? No.
Well, let me ask you this. Well, in terms of the fight itself, being someone who's in there and a fighter yourself, seeing the fight, because it's easy for somebody to say it was a lackluster performance who's never been in there. So for you watching that yourself, because I'll give you my opinion of it also in a moment, but I'm really curious to see how you felt about that one, because in seeing that, again, everybody has, an opinion, but, no one's really walked that walk, but you have. So when you see a fight like that, what goes through your mind? And what did you think about this one?
Well, and things that go through my mind are this is the power of rematches. Right. You never know how someone is going to react to a rematch. If someone's been beaten by a person before and they're about to go against them again, Are they more motivated to beat them? Are they, you know, in a position of vengeance? Are they, you know, do they go in way more confident because now they know the feel and they can address what happened and, you know, make those changes? Or does that person have their number and they have that, you know, insecurity and like, you beat me, you know what it feels like to beat me. Or, you know, especially if it was a tap, especially if it was a, you know, a very dominant win, like how do
and that
people
first one
feel about
was
how that went for them the first time?
right. So when you saw it, who did you have winning that fight at the end of the fight?
I felt like Rose did some beautiful stuff. I felt like her movement was good, her angles were good, she was not getting tagged up. I do feel like Carla did more, you know, but that comes from both of them sprinkling some salt. You know, there wasn't a whole meal there for either of them. So I do think Carla did more. I imagine Carla was so surprised to be able to go and just do that. And it was just, I partially was like the whole time just waiting for Rose to just like decapitate her with something out of nowhere. And I bet Carla felt the same way. You know, sitting there like, when's it coming? When's it coming? I know it's coming. When's it coming? You know, and it didn't happen.
And I'm with you. Like, I'll be honest with you, the fight wasn't great, but I always have empathy for obviously the athletes in there. And one thing that I'll say about it is that I was disappointed because I'll be honest with you. Like I said, I don't think Rose did enough. And that was my thing when I saw it. I was just like, there should never be rounds where Rose is throwing less than 10 strikes. And she landed less than 10 in every single round. You can't win fights doing that. And when it comes to, and I think the bigger issue comes down to almost your coaching and people understanding the rules and understanding that at the end of the day, yes, you might not be getting hit in the face, but if you're not scoring, the judges aren't going to give you things if you're not scoring. She wasn't scoring. And it's one of those things that people would like to bring up. For instance, the Israel Adesanya fight with Yoel Romero. In that fight, Izzy dominated the fight with leg kicks. And people want, if Rose was going out there and just chewing Carla's legs up and was 6 to 10 leg kicks around, I think we'd be having a totally different conversation today. But it was one of those things that you have to go out there. It's even if you're not, you can be a counter striker, but still be active in what you're doing, actively pulling things out. And I didn't see her doing that. And then hearing her corner, who we literally talked about how badass that corner is and what they've done in the past. But I think they failed her in this instance because for, you know, her coaches in the corner to sit there and say, no, this is what we expected. You're doing the right thing. That's not being honest. You have to tell, hey, look, we knew this was coming, but come on, you have to have more volume. Let's pick up the pace. Right. Maybe they saw something I didn't.
Yeah, that is something like, unfortunately and fortunately, it is a difference in coaching different fighters. Right. Like through me coaching and through me being coached, like everybody is different in what they need to hear. You know, some people want to hear that they're doing good and they don't want to hear anything about what they've done wrong because they'll focus on that wrong and they'll be like, oh, I'm failing. Some people want to hear everything that their opponent's going to do. They can stalk their opponent. They can watch and listen and learn, and like they obsess about what they're doing so then they can figure out their reactions to it, and they want to know everything. Some people like me, I don't want to know anything. You know, and I can't even hear my coaches when I go into the corner, just hand me my water or not. And like every once in a while, I'll hear a word that'll inspire me or do something. So, you know, I don't necessarily know what it is that Rose needs to hear when she's in the corner. Maybe she needs to hear that she's doing a good job. Maybe she needs to hear, you know, but I don't think being incorrect is the right thing where it's like, hey, you're doing enough. I think maybe you're choosing words like, hey, that round was too close. You need to do more. Or, hey, we don't know about that one. Like, do your thing. Yeah. Like, you gotta, you know, like a way to announce it that, you know, gives them the motivation to know that they're not coasting at the right level if they're trying to coast, you know?
Right. Absolutely. No, it makes perfect sense. No, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that one because so many people were talking about that recently.
Mhm.
One thing before we move on, because we have a lot to get to, guys, and I know we're not just sitting there talking about 274, but Kat, the main event, Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, you know, it didn't go in the way of Gaethje, but what were your thoughts on that fight?
I mean, I was surprised again. Like I really thought I I'm pulling for Gaethje, but I also knew Oliveira had tricks up his sleeve because that's how he fights. Is he's wild and he's unpredictable, and he's got something from everywhere. What I questioned was if the weight cut issue with the scale and the losing of the title and all of that was going to be something that hurt his heart, and if it would affect him differently going into the fight. Again, it's kind of like I'm saying about rematches, like how people deal with the adversity. Are you
Right.
somebody that gets messed with and it inspires you to go like put on a show and put everyone in their place and like sit everybody down, finger in their face and be like, don't mess with me? Or are you someone where you take it personally and that hurt and now you're kind of sad and mopey and you don't show up right because the wrong emotions are involved now,
Yeah.
and he obviously turned it around, did what he needed to do, obviously got his craziness out at the right time, and he was able to catch great Gaethje.
Oh, it was I mean, and last thing before we move on, but for you, after seeing this, the question has to go out there. If you had a choice, Khabib versus this Charles Oliveira, who you got?
It's so tricky
Oof.
because I know Khabib has done some amazing things.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
does have a very cushioned record though. So, when you look back
I'm
on
glad you
his
said it.
record and you see the truth to some of it, and we probably shouldn't get into all of this, but like,
For a later
he
date, we'll
has
we'll bring him back up. Yeah, we can talk
he
about
has
that because that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
he has done a lot recently that is completely undisputed.
Hands down.
And so yes, his recent years have been extremely successful and extremely dominant, and he's very
Yes.
smothery, and he just kind of like just, I don't know, crushes on people,
Smash.
and it works.
Smash Factory.
Right,
Yes.
but I feel like it was a premature career to call that the end all be all best goat of everything. I feel like there was still more to do.
Okay, I hear you. I hear you. But we'll definitely come back to that one at a later date because it is such a good question, and who knows? Maybe we can get Khabib to come back to fight Charles. Who knows? I'd love to see it, but we'll see. But Kat, we have a lot to get into, and I know you've been itching to talk about this one. So I mean, the floor is yours. Which one are we talking about first?
All right, so this fight, UFC Vegas 55. I'm very interested in the main event, Holly Holm versus Ketlin Vieira. I have a lot of experience with both of these girls. Holly, we never actually got to fight, but we did spar. And I will say that was a while ago, so it's not something I really get to claim at all times. But when we sparred, yeah, she was snapping me. She has those really good hands and very like crisp punches, and I'll give it to her. She was snapping my head back, but the second I had enough, I dropped my level and grabbed those legs, and then it was my game all the way onto the ground. Everyone evolves. She's evolved. I've evolved. Things have changed. She's had some really, really good fights, and obviously some huge wins. And she's a legend. She's come up in this sport and built herself, and worked it every step of the way. She has great coaches. One of her superpowers is her corner. They have some of the best strategy and game planning I've ever seen. And
Jackson Wink is one of the greats
Holly's
for a reason.
badass on that.
Yeah, it's great seeing them. And again, for people who don't know, Holly Holm, record of 14-5, obviously the former champion, number 2 contender. In this fight versus Ketlin Vieira, who's also obviously an absolute badass as well. You have some experience with her also. What are your thoughts on Ketlin?
Ketlin is
yes,
ridiculously strong, like something that I was not expecting. And I do remember when we went to fight each other, I made weight and she was having a hard time making weight. She had to go weigh in a couple extra times, and then once she finally got on weight, and part of me was sitting there like, oh man, did she just come in not ready? Like, did she not eat right or whatever? But then when we finally
Right.
actually got next to each other, that's a big chick. And
Yeah.
she cuts a lot of weight and she is super strong, and she feels strong and she uses that weight, and she's got that power at the end of her punches. And she does have that judo background. That she's the only person that's ever launched me, and I was pretty offended. I remember going in for a double leg and she uchimataed me, and I was like, man, that's going on a highlight video. I'm going on a highlight video.
It's just like when you're in the midst of it, you're like, damn, I just got put on a highlight.
And nothing but respect for her. She's awesome. And like the way she just pieced up Misha was like pretty epic too. And it just kind of like sealed the deal. I'm like, okay, that's a badass woman, and
that's a good fight, because Misha, and one thing I've always said about Misha is that she always looks uncomfortable on the feet. This is the first time I actually saw Misha that was kind of coming downhill and was engaging in the striking. And Catlin beat her decisively in the striking also. She throws really great, straight shots up the middle and really quick. For those who do not know, I just wanted to pull these up. For both of them, strikes landed per minute is roughly the same. It's about 3 strikes landed per minute. Strike accuracy is 38% for each of them. Each one of them at 38% striking accuracy. But here's the difference right here. Strikes absorbed per minute. Holly Holm is only 2.80. That's really low in the weight class. Kaylin Vieira, 4.07. She is literally taking double the strikes in that same time period. So something to keep in mind as well. So, Kat, what else do you think about this matchup in terms of where you think the fight is actually going to take place? Like, are we going to see the presence and the strength of Vieira, or are we going to see the boxing and the movement of Holly?
I would say that Ketlin is a more rounded fighter. I would say she's a much a less experienced fighter. So I think that's where the real fight comes in, is Holly's experience versus Ketlin's skills. Ketlin has I think she has everything it takes to beat Holly. But what it comes down to is who's the better fighter that night, who shows up with everything they have, who knows exactly what they're doing, and I think that's really how it's gonna pan out. Sorry, my dog.
There's the real star of the show right there. There he is, that beautiful dog.
He was gonna try to go kill the mailman out the door, so I grabbed him.
One thing I've had questions about with Holly, and maybe you could answer this for me, probably better than most, is that she has fantastic boxing. She's a former world champion, multiple-time world champion, Hall of Fame boxer. The fact that it seems like she never sits down on her punches in MMA. Why is that? Because I feel like everything, even from the fights that she had with, Amanda Nunes, which I'll say is her last loss. She has since gone back, and the way she beat Aldana and Raquel Pennington back to back, you cannot take anything away from those performances. I had her written off, and she came back and dominated those wins, especially against Aldana. But she's always kind of like on her horse as opposed to really sitting down and utilizing that boxing. Is that a strategy thing, or is that just a comfort thing in terms of MMA?
I think when you're coming with such a strong background in something like boxing, where the rest of your career is about learning to catch up to the wrestling and the ground and the jiu-jitsu that you didn't have. Like she didn't get into the UFC because of her well-roundedness. She got in the UFC because her boxing is epic and she uses it and it works. But as you've seen, as it goes along, like the way to beat Holly, was to take her down and to take her back and to put her into deep water in ways that she doesn't have the same amount of experience. I think she has to have a certain stance and she has to have a certain reach and a certain way of trying to have that fast twitch of like, I'm going to like poke your eyes, but I'm not going to, make it where you can grab my legs. Like, so every punch she has to throw it with the intention of I'm as close to you as you are to me. And if I can hit you, that means you can grab me.
Yeah. And you can get in on my hips, especially. And that's one thing that people have always said, especially with boxers coming in. I know you've heard people saying, who was, I heard, actually it was Den Thomas, who we will eventually get on the show. But he said that Terrence Crawford, he thinks would be great if he came transition to MMA. Now, Terrence Crawford does have a wrestling background. Both of his sons are fantastic, wrestlers. Also, a little, kid, coming up. But still, somebody like that who is accustomed to sitting in that boxing stance, they're always going to be susceptible to those takedowns, especially if you're just really following through and sitting on your punches. I mean, not only takedowns, leg kicks, especially calf kicks coming in. And we know Holly will that oblique kick, those calf kicks. Team Jackson Wink, they definitely utilize those kicks. They've even really were the founders of some of these kicks.
For sure.
All right. Well, anything else you want to say about this one, or you want to move on to the next week? Because again, the co-main event's kind of fire too.
I'm excited about the co-main event. So we got
right ahead.
So we got Santiago Panzanibo. I'm gonna butcher that. And Michael Pereira.
I think it's Pejeda.
Pejeda.
So you got a
channel my
both
inner
of my
Latin.
brothers from the South America, right? It's Argentina and Brazil, I believe.
Yes, which as countries, I'm pretty sure they're not the best friends. But I think it's because they're all so fancy. Like they're also there's so much swagger and there's so much passion in all of that. These fights I'm super excited about. Santiago, I'm a little indifferent towards. He's a great fighter, but we can't be friends because he knocked out my boy Neil Magny. And I love Neil Magny so much. So, of course I'm ride or die. But he's got really strong hands. His record 28-5. But he's got this fresh loss and then the fresh win. And I feel like those types of things can have you feeling a little bit heady, and those are that's what I imagine going into this is kind of rolling around with him is that taste of defeat and how much you hate it and what do you do to fix it, and how do you approach it moving forward.
I love that. So let me ask you this, because you got somebody like Ponzinibbio, and Michelle Pejeda, for that matter, who aren't like their spring chickens in the game. They're guys that obviously you have Michelle Pejeda, who's 27-11 with 2 no contests. Santiago Ponzinibbio, 29-5. Santiago is the number 14 ranked guy. He's a guy who was for a long time top 5, top 6 guy in the welterweight division. Michelle Pejeda is somebody who wants to be that. Is this a case of, I don't want to say, loser go home type of matchup, but is it one of those things that really one keeps going and one guy ends up kind of finding himself as a journeyman? How do you see this type of matchup going?
I think these are both really interesting fighters. I think it's a little early for either of them to be climbing the ranks in that notable way. I think they're both in that here show off phase. Here, show us why you're here phase. Earn it. Show me, I think Pejeda, he is such a fun and stressful fighter to watch because he's always doing crazy stuff and you love to see it land and you love to see the wildness, but every once in a while he gets put on his ass for it, and it's always this edge of your seat, how is this gonna go? Is it is it gonna turn into a flying backflip knockout, or is it going to be a he gets put on his butt and something bad happens to him. And but right now he's got all the confidence in the world. He's on a 4-fight win streak. He is. That's a good recipe you have going when that's going. And especially if you're going against somebody that's had a rocky last couple fights, that's a big axe to carry in on your shoulders. Hey, I've been doing good for a while. How you been doing? So again, comes down to personalities too. Yeah.
And this fight, I'm really looking forward to, because stylistically, these guys are the definition of a dog. In the best way possible. You have, Santiago, who I think at his highest might have been ranked number 5 or 6 before he had to take those 2 years off because of injury. And so he's beaten some really good dudes. And even in 2021, he had to fight a fight of the year contender with Michelle Baeza. And that fight was nuts if you see what he was doing with that. And then obviously he had the split decision loss to Jeff Neal. No shame in that. But Michelle Pejeda is somebody who really was coming out backflips, looking crazy. And he was so big and muscular. He was gassing himself. It seems like he finally took a step back, and he is really utilizing and showing off a lot of his skills, and he still has that crazy fast twitch explosion. He's just not like sambaing all the way down to the ring anymore. Like, he toned that down a little bit, but if he comes with it 100%, I mean, look, he has 100% takedown defense. He has 55% takedown accuracy. I mean, this fight is going to be, look, and both of these guys throw so many strikes per minute. Santiago, 4.79 strikes landed per minute. Michel Pereira, 4.71 strikes landed per minute. These dudes throw punches. I cannot wait to watch this one. This is so much fun. And look, how many? Look, 15 wins via KO, 6 wins via submission for Santiago, 14. And here's the thing for Santiago, 14 first round finishes in his career. Think about that. So those guys at the beginning of the fight are going to come to get each other. I can't wait. I think this is going to be one. This might steal the show. It really might.
Mm-hmm.
All
So
right.
I have to check something real quick because
Please,
I
yes,
think
yes,
I have a surprise for us, but I'm gonna have to swipe for a second. Hold on.
No worries. No worries. We can get you. So here, I'll say this while she's doing that. Again, this is a fight that I love, and the fight card itself is a little top heavy. But the good thing about it is, these top 3 fights, and we are going to break down this next fight in just a moment. But I think our special guest is coming up, so we're going to go ahead and have that coming up. Really quick, make sure if you guys have not already, make sure you follow Who You Got. Not Your Average Fight Podcast everywhere podcasting is available. Check us out there. Check us out on all of our social medias as well. Let me pull this up so you guys see this. Yes, follow us on Twitter at Zingano, at the Serg Vicente. Follow us also, Who You Got Show. All right. Oh, there we go. Cat, we are back. What's up? All right. So do we have a second to talk about this next fight card, or is our guest ready?
Let's start, and if we have to stop, then we can.
Perfect. Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about this one. And this fight, I'm actually really looking forward to. 2 guys coming off of, and the Tuesday night Dana White Contender Series has really turned into a better option than even tough. I don't even really watch, the Ultimate Fighter anymore, but Tuesday night Contender Series, it is so good. And there's so much awesome talent that comes in from that. And Chidi Njokuani versus Duso Tavares is on. Both of those guys are coming from that. And I am telling you, this fight also is one of those that might absolutely steal the show. Chidi Njokuani, 21-7, 15-year pro. He's new to the UFC, but he's a 15-year pro. You know him from the Contender Series as well as Bellator, 21-7. Dvorak is 11-2. Kat, what are your thoughts on the? Oh, here we go, really quick. Before we even get into that fight, I am very, very, very honored to have on this next guest. This next guest is a UFC Hall of Famer. This next guest is one of the greatest welterweights of all time. It's also from Illinois. I'm from Chicago, so I always appreciate my Illinois boys. None other than the man, the myth, the legend, Matt Hughes. Matt Hughes, sir, hello.
There's my sister.
Hi, Maddie. How are you?
It's funny how we have to do an interview to see you.
How are you? How are you feeling?
I'm okay. It was just a train.
Just a train?
I appreciate that.
Just a train. Yeah, Matt, you were telling me that coming up on June 16th, it's 5 years since the train accident. How do you feel about that?
It's amazing. I've done therapy all over the world, and it's just amazing what science is nowadays. Therapy for the best was in Colombia. Stem cell was so good for me.
Amazing. That's so amazing.
Nice. Do you think that, I'm wondering if, do you think being a fighter has helped you be so tough through going through all these resources that you've used? Like, you came out to San Diego and you were going to the same concussion treatment center as I was. And then you went to another place and you've never stopped trying. Like, you continue to try to work on yourself. Do do you attribute any of that to being as badass of a fighter as you've always been? Or do you think that you've always been this person and this is just another fight for you, just like fighting?
It's just another fight, but I would say God had me hit by the train so I can show other people how to get better from a stroke or a different accident.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're really inspiring, and how you never stop and you never quit and you keep going, like, and you're always nice. You're always just nice to everybody all the time.
You, they all catch me in a good mood. I'm human like everyone else.
You
But
are.
my theory is those fans that want an autograph or picture, they were my paycheck, so I'm very grateful for that.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
you know,
I'm
one
sorry,
thing
please.
you've always done that I know all of the girls appreciate is you've always been a big brother. You've always, even when it was a little awkward, you would try to carry our gym bags when everybody else was carrying their own, which is so nice of you. But you know, when you walk into the room and you're about to fight everyone, you kind of want to act like you can carry your own gym bag. But like, you've always been so caring and such an advocate for fighters, especially the girls. Like, how did you feel originally when they were saying girls were coming in to fight in the UFC? The Ronda Rousey, the Kat Zingano, the you know, that whole era.
Um, I was a big fan because I don't like to see a girl get hit if it's by another girl. Like you, Kat. I figure we're brother and sister from a different mother and father, but I don't want to see you get hit no matter who's throwing the punch.
I understand that. I understand that. Absolutely. Um, Matt, again, it's a pleasure. So grateful to have you on the show. You're somebody that, again, you're a pioneer in the game. You've been around, and again, Illinois boys, we always appreciate being from Chicago. Always appreciate my Illinois people. But how have you seen like the evolution of the game? How are you like watching that over the last few years from where you were to now?
Two things. Um, First off, you're from Chicago, so I don't consider that Illinois.
So
That
you're right. It's Chicago.
Chicago needs to be its own state. Yeah, but I love that. I thought when guys got together to watch the sport, and we fought because we like beating people up. Now it just seems like they fight for a paycheck, so I don't watch it as much anymore.
It makes sense, and it seems like, and unfortunately, you see a lot of that, and people talking about fighter pay and things like that. But it is good thing some of those things are changing, and people are starting to make even more money. And like I said, I can't wait till we just throw those type of boxing bags on all of our fighters, our MMA fighters, so we are able to go ahead and get that. You're somebody, like I said, should I say, Holly Holmes fighting this weekend. What are your thoughts on like the champion Holly Holmes still doing her thing and being ranked number 2?
Um, like I said, if it's not American top team fighting, I don't pay much attention anymore. But I just care about my sister in the top right of my screen fighting. There's you, Cat.
Oh, I know.
And
Thank
and
you.
I see the Easter egg, Cat. You over here, you were wearing your Matt Hughes shirt today. It's like an Easter egg for everybody.
It's, I only pay her $1,000 a week to model my shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I would say for you coming up, and again, obviously speaking with you today is awesome. You have some things, I say the 5-year anniversary of your accident and everything. Are there some of the things that you're coming out with, or you're working on right now that, again, I know you wanted to talk about a little bit?
No, I lead a pretty boring life now where I don't do much. I'm home here by myself, getting ready to watch some TV. When I get done with this interview, maybe my sister will FaceTime me when we get done. She's probably seen enough of this ugly guy, though, so I can convince her to do that.
No, it's awesome. No, I would say we appreciate you coming on. Kat, is there any other questions we have for the legend before we get him out of here? And again, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah. So Matt, do you still think about training? Like, would you ever be able to like do jujitsu again for fun, or any of those things that feel like something that you'd be able to use or do? Like, I know a lot of people kind of do light jujitsu for like rehabilitory stuff. Like, is that anything that you ever think or you ever mess with?
I've got a buddy here who's a fighter that I train him as much as I can, but I love to grapple, and I'll say if I'm good at anything, it's still grappling.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm weak enough for you to submit me yet, Kat, but
And Matt, who are some of your favorites to watch, especially in the grappling department?
I'm a big American Top 10 fan, so
Of course.
I like anyone from there.
Oh yeah.
Do we ever go down there and train?
I've been down there. I don't think we crossed paths at the same time though.
Okay.
Matt, how about, I mean, speaking of, ATT down there, like you're talking about great coaches and amazing grapplers. Like, what are your thoughts on Mike Brown as a coach and what he's done with that team?
Mike's great, and Dan is one of my best friends, so I keep contact with Dan and what's going on down there. But Brown is a good guy.
Oh man, he's really, I mean, that team that he's put together, he's really come into and turned into one of the, I call them Yoda level coaches. There's those handful of coaches that are just like the Yoda level guys. He's one of those coaches. One of the I look at him, Faraz Zahabi. You're looking at Eric Nixick and those guys. Like a lot of those are those guys that I look at with just that utmost respect. And I mean, Mike Brown, the team that they've got down there, even oh man, King Mo. King Mo has been training down as a coach. How do you? Yeah, please tell me about King Mo.
King Mo's one of those guys. When I go in the gym, him and I have some playful words for each other. But he's a good guy. But he gets my sense of humor like that all do.
Oh, he's great. He was great. Yeah, I mean, especially, but as a coach, those guys are kicking butt down there. They have a great grappling down there and great coaching down there.
Can I remind you of something?
Of course.
With my sense of humor, I'm my biggest fan. So if someone else thoughts, I really don't care.
I know, man. I realized that train took your filter.
It really did. Now, if it comes out of my mouth, it goes in my mind. It comes out of my mouth, and I've got the best issues ever. Hit by train.
Yeah, you know what? But we love you, and everybody loves you, and hit by a train or not, you're one of the greatest humans of all time. And I'm so glad you're here. And I'm so glad you're okay. And I'm glad you keep trying, because it inspires a lot more people than you know.
Kat, I'm going to have to pay you some money for all those kind words.
Yeah, you will.
Checks in the mail.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. We really appreciate your time. I have to do this again sometime. Kat, anything else?
Yeah, Matt, I'll hit you up later. I'll give you that phone call you're asking about. Good to see your face.
He's gonna get that FaceTime then.
I know I'm ugly, but it's still me in here. So you guys have a good night. And when you get some dead air that you need to fill, Kat can get a hold of me, Amber, anytime.
Thank you so much for your time.
Right,
we really appreciate the legend. Matt
See you
Hughes,
guys.
everybody. Yes, sir. See you later. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Always awesome to have on just such a legend, Matt Hughes, and be able to grace us with his time. I'm honestly so appreciative. I've grown up watching that dude. Literally, when I first got into MMA, he was just crushing fools. So to be able to have an opportunity to speak with him is really dope. Kat, so tell us, like I said, I know you train with stuff. How did you get to know Matt Hughes?
Just through being at events and being at fight stuff. so many funny stories. I where do we even start? One of the fights that I went to, I think it was, what was it? Ronda versus oh my gosh, it was after her and Misha, Alexis Davis.
Okay.
And I was supposed to get that fight because I had beat Misha, the number one contender spot. And they asked me how my knee was doing, and I was like, it's so. So then they went on and they added that fight instead of my fight. So I had this little, bone to pick, but in a more aggressive way. So instead of, they brought me out to the fight to watch the fight. But during that fight week, I decided I was going to join the Grappler's Quest tournament and do that tournament on like 3 days notice. And I hadn't trained for it. I hadn't done anything. It was 4th of July weekend. Right. And also my birthday's July 1st. So it was like birthday weekend too. And we were all in Vegas. And he was like, well, you have to let me buy you and your friend sushi. So we had sushi, but with, then it's time for a birthday shot. And then it's time for a 4th of July shot. Well, then it's time, and now we started and decided to go out to, I think there's like one country bar in Vegas, and he just played security. And it was very funny because me and my friend Randy, she's an Olympian in wrestling, first Black woman to ever medal as a wrestler. Right. She's badass. We'd be out on the dance floor and he would just be standing at the bar making sure no one came and talked to us and no one bothered us.
What a security guard. You guys had the UFC Hall of Famer holding it down for you guys.
Oh yeah, he's people would come try to talk to him and he's like, I'm busy. I'm watching, making sure like everything's fun. And like I was saying earlier, he's always just been so careful of the girls. Just always wanted to make sure the girls had a safe experience. Like they felt welcome. They felt supported. Like he, there's even been controversy at points because, he's friends with me and I'm fighting Juliana Pena and Juliana Pena is friends with him. And she is mad that he's friends with me while he's also friends with her. And,
right.
Yeah. So it's never fazed him. He's always himself, he's always still just there for everybody and always cool for everybody and doesn't expect a thing. Never got weird, always just a good dude.
That's always the best thing of it right there. Well, let's do this again. We love that we have that and he joined us today because that is incredible to talk to such a legend. We got this. We got some picks to make. We have some picks to make, and we got to really quick talk about. Actually, let's just jump into it. Who you got? Because you know what time of the show it is. You know what we're all here for. We've deliberated, and now it's time. Kat, who you got? Let's jump into it. Let's start off with Chidi Njokuani against my man Tavorak. What are your thoughts on this one?
Okay, I think in this fight, I am a little torn only because I feel like Chidi has his Muay Thai is so awesome. I mean, he's so traditional in his stance still. He's basically out there tapping his front foot with his little
straight up
claws out for everyone, and has done such big things with his Muay Thai, and then obviously can keep those consistent punches and strikes and everything going as soon as he knocks someone on their ass. So I think that is a huge strength of his. I think that Dusko is, that's a really strong fighter too. And only till recently has he seen defeat, and he had a loss, a win, a loss, and a win. And now, he's got to defend it. And so you have two hungry fighters, two different styles. And I think it's going to be a banger. I think someone's getting cut and I think some things are getting broken and, it's going to go there.
Well, who you got? Should I deliberate real quick myself first? Or no, go ahead.
Go for it. I know who I got. Who you got?
All right. Well, I look at this fight and I think the difference is going to be experience. And I think there's levels in this game. And I just honestly, if I look at it, Dusko started off great. He looks good, but if I just think about the levels of this game, I think Chidi is just a level higher. He's more experienced. He's been in there with guys, everything from kickboxing and literally legitimate Muay Thai to bangers at 170 in Bellator. He is one of those guys that's still young enough to come off as a prospect, but has that veteran swagger. I mean, Anthony Njokuani, his brother, was a WEC legend. I mean, and he's out there still kicking ass in the WE in one championship. So I look at this fight. I think Dusko is good. He gets reckless. He throws wide punches. That is a terrible, terrible mix when you're getting there with a savage who is a Muay Thai savant like Chidi Njokuani. I'm going with Chidi by knockout. I'm going with second round.
All right. I'm going to throw it into something weird. I bet somebody's shin bone is breaking, Anderson Silva style. And I'm going to say it's Chidi. I got Chidi too. I don't think his bone is breaking. I think he might break a bone. But I think it's going to be some kind of devastation because both of these guys are throwing heat, and it's like heat. It's like injury heat. It's not like just knock you out and no one's bleeding. It's like it's some injuries going on. So I'm with you on that. I'm with you with Chidi.
Absolutely. No, and I think it's going to be a good fight, and I think that Dusko is good. I just think Chidi's going to be that guy. All right, let's talk about the co-main event. Kat, who you get? Who's the co-main event? Let the people know about it.
Oh, you're gonna make me say this.
Yeah, no, I got it. No worries. I'll put him out there. We got Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Michel Pereira.
Oh my gosh. I have to say, like, I think that Ponzinibbio, he's super good, and he, but I'm someone that gets like corrected by my coaches for doing wild stuff all the time. And when they're like, don't do that, it won't work. I'm kind of the person that's like, well, now I need to do it to make sure it works. Like, look what I did to Amanda Nunes, like front headlock DDT, like 3 times or something in a match. And you know how many times they told me don't do that? Like, I'm just saying. So when somebody comes out with that individualism, like, because we don't get to pick uniforms anymore, might as well be someone that does crazy, flashy, wonderful things. And I want to see that go to the artist. I want to see Michael Pereira win.
I'm you know what? I think I might be with you on this one. I think Santiago is one of those guys that has so much experience in the UFC. He has been rated higher, but what I have seen since he has come back, granted, he had a great fight against Miguel Baeza from MMA Masters down there in Florida. He is great. He had a great team, but I don't know. I'm with momentum. And when you have 4 wins in a row in the UFC, I'm starting to rock with your momentum, and we'll see. Can Santiago stop that? I don't think so at this moment. I'm going with you. I'm with you. I'm going with Michel Pereira. That's going to be the one. I'm with you. I think it's going to be, it's going to be a fun one. And that's another one. It might steal the show. Think about it. And I said it before for you guys. Both of these fighters throw literally 5 strikes per minute. Think about that. That's unheard of. It's crazy. That's some Justin Gaethje shit. All right. Kat, let's talk about the main event.
All right. So we have Holly Holm and Ketlen Vieira. I want to give it to Ketlen because I do believe she has everything it takes to beat Holly. I do think she has the ground. She's a jiu-jitsu black belt. She's a judo specialist. She's got great hands and great power in those hands. She's got that like poise and confidence to know when to go slow and to know when to go fast. Yeah. Like, and especially the evolution and the confidence I'm sure she got from beating Misha, who also beat Holly. Like those things are not only in her mind, those are in Holly's mind too. So that's the thing with matchups. There's no math. You can't do any math as far as this person knows this and this person knows this, or this person beat this person, therefore this person wins. That doesn't work. Not in MMA. But I do think Ketlen, I think the time is right. I think she has everything it takes, and I think she can beat Holly. All due respect to Holly, she's a G. But
for sure.
We're coming down to it. I think it's Ketlen.
You turned me on this one. My pick was going to be Holly Holm. I'll be honest with you because the way that she was getting pieced up by Misha Tate at times made me feel like if Holly has an opportunity to really get off, and what I saw Holly do against Aldana really made me feel like Holly can take this fight. But you talking about her strength and how and again with you and everything, you swayed me. You did it. You got me. I'm with you. I know we don't always pick the same way, but today, that's what it seems like. All 3 of them, we're together. I'm with you. I'm going with Ketlen Vieira. in this one. I think she's going to do it via unanimous decision, though. I think she's going to get a decision win. No finish on this one. I got a decision.
I can see that. I can see a decision. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that is that card. That is this weekend. That will be UFC Vegas 55. And again, Bellator also has some great stuff coming out, as well as obviously PFL is up and kicking. It's a fantastic one, and we'll talk about all those things. But I do have to talk about something that did happen in Bellator. And I know we only have a couple minutes left before, because I know we have a hard out today, but we're gonna talk about two quick things. Actually, one. I want to talk about one because I wanted to give this person a salute, a legend in the game. Let's talk about this week in social media. Oh, I should have took that down. All right. Let's salute to this legend who just retired, and in his retirement fight, he did what only he can do. We're talking about the legendary, the UK's very own Semtech Paul Daly. Just finishes.
Semtech's turning it round. Looking for
Look at that. Semtech's Paul Daly going out the way Paul Daly is supposed to. Kat, do you have any Paul Daly memories or moments?
I don't. I thought earlier when you said Paul Daly, I thought you said Paul. Well, I thought you were talking about Paul Bradley, who is also a very fighter, but very different fighter for a lot of reasons. Very different fighter. And yeah, that was an interesting story. He was a teammate of mine at Alliance. He's also my son's wrestling coach over at one of these programs. And one day he would get to the gym early. I would get to the gym early. We would talk about life sometimes, but this one day he must have been going through it. Again, not Paul Daly, Paul Bradley. So this isn't not confused. And I was warming up in the cage by myself, just kind of shadow wrestling, like down blocking, like sprawls, moving and all that. And I don't know what was up with him. I don't know what side of the bed he woke up on that day, but he walks in, he gets in the cage too. There's all this room in the gym that you could have been in, but you get in the same cage as me. And he goes, I don't know why you girls think you're good at wrestling. I don't know why you guys think you can fight. And I turned around and I could tell he just like wanted to mess with me. And so I turned my back and I just kept shadow boxing and everything into the corner. And then all of a sudden he comes up and he grabs my arm and he trips me backwards and he lands on me and he keeps messing with me. And to me, you can't say something like that. Like it deliberately pissed me off and then think we're going to play. And so I was telling him to get off of me and he wasn't getting off of me. So I just started swinging up from my back, just swinging up. And he's like, ah. And, he gets up, he walks away and he talks to the front desk. He's like, Kat just punched me in the face. And they're like, well, what did you say to her? And he's like, and it was fine. We were cool after that, but
Yeah, hey, and you know what? One thing I'll say with that one is if you say dumb stuff, you deserve to get punched in the face. So I'm not mad at that one bit. But what I do want to say real quick, in terms of Paul Daly, legend, he going out the way he did for Bellator is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. He was one of the. I come from a Muay Thai background, so being a black dude doing Muay Thai back in the day and knocking people out. He was somebody that him and Thiago Alves were two guys that I loved and idolized their styles. So it was really cool to see him go out there and go out and win like that. But seeing how he knocks people out and finish, and I'll finish the show off with this. Well, because Kat, you see how he went out there and finished that. How would you like to finish your next fight? How is that going to happen? Like, what are we going to do? Or not even in your next fight. If you know, like him, this is my last fight. This is it for me. I'm going to podcast and make millions over here. This is it. How are you going to finish your last fight? And again, because that's his ideal storybook ending. What would yours be?
I mean, look at him. He ate, he served, he left no scraps. He teed off and you can tell he threw everything he had into those punches. That was years and years and years of doing this. And he's like, these are coming out of my hands right now. And that was just, it was beautiful. That felt good. He walked out and he that was the exclamation point on the end of his sentence. Absolutely. Like that was beautiful. And that's what everybody would want,
Heck yeah. So how are you going to finish him up? How are you going now? What would your ideal ending be for you?
My ideal ending, I think, would look a little like Matt Hughes picking someone up on one side of the cage and like running to the other side of the cage and getting like a good hop into it while you like slam them on their dome, and then it's over, and then you just get to walk out with that, and that's it. The last thing everyone saw is the last thing they remember. That's beautiful.
I love it. I love it. We got to make that, whenever that is, years and years from now, no time soon, but whenever that does come, I want to see it. But all right, with that being said, I know it's about time we have. I want to make sure, like I said, Kat gets to all of your appointments and things you have to do. And but look, we will absolutely be back very soon, each and every week when there's a fantastic fight. We are going to be here talking who you got. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and IG. Follow us on Twitter at Zingano, at Serg Vicente, and make sure to follow at who you got and IG, as you see right here on my co-host thing right there. It's at Alpha Zingano. That's her IG. Make sure to follow that as well. Kat, anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Oh man, it's a really nice show. I'm super excited that we all got to talk to Matt.
Absolutely.
He's a good dude, and I'm super inspired by him. I hope you guys are too.
Awesome. Thank you so much to our guest, Matt Hughes, the legend, Matt Hughes. Make sure to follow us everywhere podcasting is available. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page and all the social medias. Love you guys. We'll see you next time right here on Who You Got, Not Your Average Fight Pick Show. Peace.